The crystalline chambers of the Galactic Defense Council hummed with tension as representatives from 17 different species gathered around the massive hexagonal table. Admiral Zyxthera of the Kalani Empire adjusted her bioluminescent crest, casting pale blue light across her scaled features as she studied the holographic displays floating before each delegate. The data streaming across the translucent screens told a story that defied everything they thought they knew about warfare. "Colleagues," Admiral Zyxthera began, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had commanded fleets across 3 galactic quadrants, "we are here to discuss what our intelligence networks are calling the human anomaly. 3 months ago, we received the first reports of a species calling themselves humans joining the ongoing conflict in the Outer Rim territories." General Vorthe K of the Bruton Collective leaned forward, his massive frame causing the reinforced chair to creak under his weight. His forearms gestured dismissively at the data streams. "Another primitive species throwing themselves into the meat grinder. We've seen this pattern countless times. New civilizations discover faster than light travel, think they understand modern warfare, and get themselves obliterated within the first engagement. That's what we all assumed," confirmed Director Shell Lin of the Ethereal Syndicate, her wispy form flickering between dimensions as she spoke. "Initial scans of their homeworld showed a species barely past nuclear technology. Their ships appeared to be crude fusion-powered vessels with primitive kinetic weapons. By all calculations, they should have been eliminated in their first encounter with hegemony forces." Ambassador Quindar of the Peaceful Collective, whose people had mastered warfare through pure mathematics and probability, manipulated his data displays with precise movements. "The preliminary reports suggested they would last perhaps 14 standard cycles before complete annihilation. Our most optimistic projections gave them 23 cycles if they employed guerrilla tactics and avoided direct confrontation." Admiral Zyxthera nodded grimly. "Those reports were filed exactly 93 standard cycles ago. Not only are the humans still fighting, but they've begun pushing hegemony forces back across multiple front lines. This meeting was called because our intelligence agencies have compiled data that challenges everything we understand about combat effectiveness." The chamber fell silent except for the soft humming of the translation matrices and environmental systems. Each species present had faced the hegemony's relentless expansion at some point. The insectoid Zarthak had lost 6 core worlds before establishing a defensive perimeter. The energy-based Luxori had been forced to evacuate their entire home galaxy. The mechanically enhanced Cybirati had fought the hegemony to a standstill only after sacrificing 40% of their population and converting their remaining numbers into pure war machines. "Show them the Kepler station incident," ordered Admiral Zyxthera. The central holographic projector activated, displaying a detailed recreation of a space station orbiting a gas giant. The structure was massive, capable of housing nearly 2 million beings and serving as a major refueling depot for hegemony fleets moving toward the galactic core. "Kepler station was considered impregnable," explained Director Shell Lin. "Defended by a full hegemony battle group consisting of 3 dreadnoughts, 12 heavy cruisers, 36 destroyers, and supporting fighter squadrons. The station itself mounted defensive systems capable of repelling coordinated attacks from entire fleets." The hologram shifted, showing the approach of human vessels. The fleet appeared pathetically small in comparison: 2 cruisers, 6 destroyers, and what appeared to be a single transport vessel. "Intelligence intercepts indicated the humans planned to capture the station intact," continued Director Shell Lin. "Our analysts predicted complete failure. The hegemony force alone outgunned the human fleet by a factor of 8 to 1. General Vorthe K studied the tactical display with professional interest. Standard doctrine would be to avoid this engagement entirely. Even with superior technology, attacking a fortified position with such numerical disadvantage violates basic strategic principles." "Watch what happens next," said Admiral Zyxthera. The holographic recreation showed the human fleet approaching in what appeared to be a standard attack formation. The hegemony forces responded predictably, launching fighter squadrons and moving their capital ships into defensive positions around the station. Energy readings spiked as both sides charged their weapons systems. Then, something unprecedented occurred. The human transport vessel suddenly accelerated past its escort fleet, diving directly toward the station's docking bays while transmitting surrender codes. Hegemony forces, confused by the apparent capitulation, held their fire as standing orders required the capture of surrendering vessels for intelligence purposes. "The transport docked successfully," narrated Director Shell Lin. Hegemony boarding teams prepared to secure what they assumed were human prisoners and gather intelligence about their technology and tactics. Ambassador Quindar's mathematical mind immediately grasped the implications.
They weren't surrendering. No, confirmed Admiral ZYX. The transport contained exactly one human.
The hologram zoomed in on the docking bay, showing hegemony soldiers in their characteristic black armor surrounding the human vessel. The transport's doors opened, and a single figure emerged.
Standard protocol called for overwhelming force when boarding unknown vessels, explained General Vorthake.
47 hegemony Marines, full tactical gear, energy weapons, combat enhancement drugs, and neural linking for coordinated responses. The human figure in the hologram appeared remarkably unremarkable. Average height, standard combat armor that looked primitive compared to hegemony equipment, and carrying what scanners identified as simple kinetic weapons, devices that fired metal projectiles using chemical explosives.
What you're about to witness, said Admiral ZYX, has been verified by 17 independent intelligence agencies. The sensor recordings are authentic.
The mathematical analysis has been confirmed by our most advanced tactical computers.
The holographic display showed real-time sensor readings as the confrontation began.
The hegemony Marines moved to surround the human, energy weapons powered and targeting systems locked. Standard procedure called for immediate stunning and capture.
The human moved.
What happened next occurred so quickly that the holographic display had to slow the footage by 60% for analysis. The human's weapon fired repeatedly, primitive kinetic rounds that somehow found gaps in advanced hegemony armor. The figure moved with fluid precision, each step calculated to position them optimally while staying ahead of return fire.
Engagement duration, 14.7 seconds, reported Director Shellin.
Hegemony casualties, 47 Marines eliminated, 0 survivors.
Human casualties, none reported.
The chamber erupted in startled exclamations from multiple species. Several delegates immediately began accessing their personal data networks, cross-referencing the information with their own intelligence reports. This must be some form of enhanced footage, protested General Vorthake.
No single organic being could eliminate 47 trained soldiers in 15 seconds.
The mathematics alone make it impossible. Ambassador Quindar was manipulating his probability calculators with increasing urgency. My analysis confirms the mathematical impossibility. Even with perfect accuracy, the time required to acquire 47 targets and deliver fatal strikes exceeds the engagement duration by a factor of 3.
We had the same reaction, admitted Admiral ZYX.
That's why we deployed additional intelligence assets to study this species more carefully. The holographic display shifted, showing a series of smaller engagements across multiple star systems. In each case, individual humans or small human units achieved tactical victories that defied conventional military analysis.
The pattern repeats consistently, continued Director Shellin. Humans demonstrate combat effectiveness ratios that exceed known biological limitations.
A single human marine appears capable of neutralizing enemy forces that would require coordinated attacks from entire battalions of other species.
But, how? Demanded General Vorthake. What technology are they using? What enhancements? What tactical advantages explain these results? That, said Admiral ZYX, is why we convened this council.
Our preliminary investigations have yielded disturbing conclusions about the nature of human warfare capabilities. The holographic display showed a three-dimensional model of a human soldier, with detailed biological scans highlighting various physiological systems. The data streams revealed information that made several delegates lean forward with intense interest.
Initial scans suggested primitive biology, explained Director Shellin. Standard carbon-based life form, average physical capabilities, no apparent technological enhancements. However, deeper analysis revealed several anomalies.
The model highlighted the human nervous system, showing electrical activity patterns that pulsed in complex, almost hypnotic rhythms. Neurological analysis indicates humans possess a distributed combat processing system unlike anything in our databases. Instead of centralized tactical processing like most species, humans appear to have evolved parallel systems that operate independently while maintaining coordination. Ambassador Quindar studied the data with growing fascination.
This suggests they can process multiple tactical scenarios simultaneously. But, the energy requirements for such neurological activity should be enormous. Exactly, confirmed Admiral ZYX.
Which led us to investigate their metabolic systems. The holographic model shifted focus to the human circulatory and respiratory systems, highlighting efficiency ratings that made several delegates gasp in recognition. Humans evolved on a planet with variable atmospheric composition and extreme environmental conditions, continued Director Shellin. Their cardiovascular systems can operate at peak efficiency across a range of oxygen levels that would incapacitate most species. More significantly, they possess redundant energy delivery systems that allow sustained high-intensity activity far beyond normal biological limitations. This explains sustained combat capability, mused General Vorthake, but not the precision and tactical awareness we observed.
The answer lies in their evolutionary history, said Admiral Zyxthara grimly. Humans are persistence predators.
The term sent a chill through the assembled delegates. Most species in the galaxy had evolved as either predators or prey, but persistence predation was rare and generally considered a primitive hunting strategy.
They don't hunt by overwhelming their prey or laying ambushes, explained Director Shellin.
They hunt by pursuing their targets relentlessly until the prey exhausts itself. This evolutionary strategy shaped their entire neurological and physiological development. The holographic display showed tracking data from human military exercises, revealing movement patterns and decision-making processes that followed persistence predation instincts translated into combat scenarios. In warfare, this translates into an ability to maintain tactical pressure indefinitely while continuously adapting to enemy responses, continued Admiral Zyxthara.
They don't seek quick victories, they seek inevitable victories. Ambassador Quindar's calculations were showing increasingly disturbing results.
If their combat effectiveness scales linearly with unit size, a full human military force could theoretically engage significantly larger conventional armies with reasonable expectation of success. Our analysis suggests their effectiveness actually scales exponentially, said Director Shellin quietly. Individual humans operate at peak efficiency, but human units demonstrate emergent tactical capabilities that exceed the sum of their parts.
The chamber fell silent as the implications settled.
Every species present had developed military doctrine based on understood limitations of biological warfare capabilities.
If humans operated outside those limitations, conventional strategic planning might prove inadequate. There's more, said Admiral Zyxthara. Our intelligence networks have detected concerning developments in human military technology. They're not just effective fighters, they're rapidly advancing their technological capabilities through what we can only describe as accelerated warfare evolution. The holographic display showed human ships and weapons that had been documented over the 3-month period since their first appearance. The technological progression was staggering. They began with primitive fusion drives and kinetic weapons, explained Director Shellin. Current intelligence suggests they've developed energy weapons, advanced defensive systems, and propulsion technology that rivals our own capabilities. In 3 months, protested General Vorthake. Technological development of that magnitude should require decades of research and testing.
Unless, said Ambassador Quindar slowly, their learning curve operates on the same principles as their combat effectiveness.
If they approach technological development with the same persistence predation instincts. Exactly, confirmed Admiral Zyxthara. They don't just adapt to survive, they adapt to excel.
And they do it faster than any species we've encountered. The weight of this revelation hung heavy in the crystalline chamber.
Each delegate was calculating the implications for their own species and territories.
If humans continued their current trajectory, they wouldn't just be another faction in the ongoing galactic conflicts, they could become a dominant force reshaping the balance of power across multiple sectors.
What are you recommending? Asked Director Shellin. Admiral Zyxthara's crest dimmed as she considered her response. We need more intelligence. Much more.
The data we've gathered suggests humans may represent a fundamental shift in galactic warfare capabilities, but we're still operating on incomplete information.
And if they prove to be as dangerous as these preliminary reports suggest, pressed General Vorthake.
Then, we need to decide whether humanity represents an opportunity for alliance or a threat requiring immediate containment, replied Admiral Zyxthara grimly.
Either way, we cannot afford to underestimate them again.
The council session was far from over, but already the delegates could sense that their understanding of galactic military balance was about to undergo a dramatic revision. The humans had introduced variables into the equation that none of their strategic models had anticipated. And, somewhere in the Outer Rim territories, human forces continued their steady advance against opponents who were only beginning to understand what they were truly facing.
3 days after the initial council session, Admiral ZYX Thera stood in the secure intelligence briefing chamber deep within the Defense Council's primary facility. The room was smaller than the main council chambers, designed for classified operations and sensitive data analysis. Around her, the galaxy's most experienced military intelligence officers prepared to present findings that would fundamentally alter their understanding of human capabilities. Commander Tekvar of the Zarthak hive mind activated the central holographic array, his insectoid features clicking with nervous energy. As a species that shared collective consciousness, the Zarthak were uniquely qualified to analyze the individual versus collective combat dynamics that humans seem to defy. Admiral, we've completed comprehensive analysis of 47 separate human combat engagements documented over the past 96 standard cycles. The results are unprecedented in our military databases. The holographic display materialized, showing a three-dimensional tactical map of the Outer Rim conflict zone. Hundreds of engagement points dotted the display, each color-coded to represent different outcome categories. The overwhelming majority glowed blue, indicating human tactical victories. Traditional combat effectiveness analysis relies on predictable variables, explained Commander Tekvar. Unit strength, technological advantage, terrain benefits, logistical support, and command structure efficiency. These factors normally determine engagement outcomes with 93% accuracy. Admiral ZYX Thera studied the display with growing concern. And, with human engagements? Our predictive models achieve 12% accuracy when humans are involved, replied Commander Tekvar grimly. They consistently violate fundamental principles of military science. Dr. Nixandra of the Ethereal Syndicate materialized beside the holographic display, her translucent form shimmering as she manipulated the data streams. As energy-based beings, the Ethereal had mastered warfare through pure information manipulation and strategic prediction. We've isolated specific examples that demonstrate the scope of this anomaly, Dr. Nixandra announced. Consider the Battle of Proxima Ridge. The holographic display shifted, showing a mountainous terrain with defensive positions carved into rocky outcroppings. Hegemony forces had established a fortified line across a strategic valley, controlling the only passage between two star systems. Standard siege doctrine requires attacking forces to maintain numerical superiority of at least 3-1 when assaulting prepared positions, continued Dr. Nixandra. The Hegemony defensive line was manned by 2,000 soldiers with integrated support weapons, energy barriers, and orbital artillery support. The display showed the approaching human force, a single company consisting of 123 soldiers with basic equipment and no visible air support. The humans attacked directly into the strongest point of the defensive line, explained Commander Tekvar. Every tactical analysis system predicted complete failure within the first wave. Admiral ZYX Thera watched as the holographic recreation began. The human force advanced across open terrain under direct fire from entrenched positions. Standard doctrine called for immediate retreat or desperate flanking maneuvers. Instead, the humans did something unexpected. They split into individual units operating independently, narrated Dr. Nixandra. But, instead of losing coordination, they maintained tactical coherence through methods we still don't understand. The holographic display tracked individual human soldiers as they moved across the battlefield. Rather than following standard unit formations, each human seemed to operate as an independent tactical system while somehow maintaining coordination with their companions. Watch soldier designation H-47, instructed Commander Tekvar. The display highlighted one human figure as it navigated through enemy fire. The soldiers' movement patterns defied conventional tactical doctrine. Instead of seeking cover and maintaining defensive positions, they continuously advanced while engaging multiple targets simultaneously. Targeting analysis indicates this individual acquired and engaged 17 separate enemy positions over a 4-minute period, explained Dr. Nixandra. While advancing 400 meters across open ground. Under direct fire from integrated defensive systems. That's impossible, muttered Admiral ZYX Thera. No organic being can process that many targets while maintaining forward momentum under combat stress. Exactly, confirmed Commander Tekvar. Which led us to investigate human neurological responses during combat situations. The holographic display shifted to show real-time brain activity scans captured during the engagement. The patterns were unlike anything in their databases. Instead of the focused, centralized activity typical of most species under stress, human brains showed distributed activity across multiple regions simultaneously. Most species experience neurological tunnel vision during combat, explained Dr. Nixandra.
Stress hormones cause the brain to focus on immediate threats while filtering out peripheral information.
This is an evolutionary survival mechanism. Humans appear to experience the opposite effect, added Commander Tekvar. Combat stress triggers what we can only describe as enhanced awareness.
Their attention doesn't narrow, it expands.
Admiral ZYX studied the brain scans with growing unease. You're suggesting humans become more capable under combat stress?
Not just more capable, replied Dr. Nixandra. They achieve optimal performance only under extreme stress conditions.
Peaceful environments actually reduce their operational efficiency. The implications were staggering.
Every known species experienced combat as a degradation of normal capabilities. Fear, stress, and adrenaline were evolutionary responses designed to promote survival rather than optimal performance. If humans experienced combat as enhanced function, traditional military psychology became irrelevant.
Show her the Titan Station assault, suggested Commander Tekvar.
The holographic display materialized a massive space station orbiting a binary star system. The structure was clearly military, weapon emplacements, defensive shields, and docking facilities for an entire battle fleet. Titan Station served as the hegemony's primary command center for this sector, explained Dr. Nixandra. Defended by 5,000 elite Marines, automated defense systems, and a supporting fleet of 63 vessels.
The human assault force consisted of a single transport ship, added Commander Tekvar. Admiral ZYX stared at the display in disbelief. One ship against an entire command station? What were they thinking?
That's what we wanted to understand, replied Dr. Nixandra. So we analyzed their approach patterns, communication intercepts, and tactical decisions. The holographic recreation showed the lone human transport approaching the heavily defended station. Defensive systems activated, launching waves of automated fighters and charging energy weapons.
Standard doctrine would be immediate retreat, observed Commander Tekvar. Or at minimum, calling for massive reinforcements before attempting engagement.
The humans did neither, continued Dr. Nixandra. They proceeded with a direct assault using tactics that violated every known principle of space combat. The holographic display tracked the transport ship as it weaved through defensive fire with precision that exceeded mechanical limitations. Energy blasts that should have destroyed the vessel somehow missed by impossibly narrow margins. Pilot designation H-92 demonstrated reaction times that exceed known biological limitations, explained Commander Tekvar.
Response delays measured in microseconds rather than the standard millisecond range for organic neural systems.
How is that possible? Demanded Admiral ZYX.
We believe humans have evolved parallel processing neurological systems, replied Dr. Nixandra.
Instead of linear decision-making, they appear capable of simultaneous tactical computation across multiple variables.
The holographic ship reached the station's docking bays, somehow penetrating defensive systems that should have prevented any unauthorized approach.
Sensor readings showed the transport contained exactly 12 human soldiers. 12 soldiers to assault a station defended by 5,000, mused Admiral ZYX.
The mathematics alone make success impossible. Watch what happens next, instructed Commander Tekvar.
The display showed the human soldiers emerging from their transport and immediately splitting into 3 groups. Instead of concentrating their force for maximum impact, they divided their already minimal numbers.
Group Alpha proceeded toward the command center, narrated Dr. Nixandra. Group Beta moved to secure the main power systems.
Group Charlie advanced toward the communication arrays. They were attacking 3 separate objectives simultaneously, realized Admiral ZYX. With 4 soldiers per objective. Against defenders who outnumbered them 400 to 1 at each target, confirmed Commander Tekvar. The holographic recreation continued, showing the 3 human groups advancing through the station's corridors. Hegemony forces responded with overwhelming numbers, deploying hundreds of soldiers to each threatened area.
What followed defied every principle of military engagement.
Group Alpha encountered 137 defenders in the command center approaches, reported Dr. Nixandra.
Engagement duration, 7 minutes, 43 seconds. Hegemony casualties, complete elimination. Human casualties, none. Group Beta faced 98 defenders around the power systems, continued Commander Tekvar. Engagement duration, 5 minutes, 12 seconds. Hegemony casualties, complete elimination. Human casualties, 1 minor injury.
Group Charlie neutralized 112 defenders protecting the communication arrays, concluded Dr. Nixandra.
Engagement duration, 6 minutes, 51 seconds. Hegemony casualties, complete elimination. Human casualties, none. Admiral ZYX stared at the tactical display in stunned silence. The mathematics were impossible, yet the sensor recordings were verified authentic by multiple independent analysis systems. Total station capture took 18 minutes, summarized Commander Tekvar.
Human forces suffered minimal casualties while eliminating over 300 elite hegemony Marines.
There has to be some explanation, insisted Admiral ZYX.
Advanced technology, genetic modifications, some factor were missing. Dr. Nixandra manipulated the display to show detailed analysis of captured human equipment.
That's what we assumed.
Comprehensive scans reveal primitive kinetic weapons, basic armor systems, and standard life support equipment. No energy weapons, no technological enhancements, no exotic materials.
Then, how? Demanded Admiral ZYX. We've identified 3 key factors, explained Commander Tekvar. First, humans demonstrate tactical adaptation rates that exceed our measurement capabilities.
They don't just respond to changing conditions, they anticipate changes and prepare countermeasures before enemy tactics evolve. The holographic display showed frame-by-frame analysis of human soldiers adjusting their positions and tactics in real time.
The movements appeared to predict enemy responses that hadn't yet occurred. Second, continued Dr. Nixandra, humans display combat coordination that functions independently of communication systems. They maintain unit coherence even when separated and under jamming conditions. How? Asked Admiral ZYX. We don't know, admitted Commander Tekvar. They don't use technological communication systems during combat.
Yet they demonstrate tactical coordination that suggests constant information sharing.
Third,
and, most disturbing, added Dr. Nixandra, humans appear to learn from every engagement at an exponential rate. Each combat encounter increases their effectiveness beyond simple experience accumulation. The holographic display showed comparative analysis charts tracking human performance over time. Instead of the gradual improvement curve typical of military units, human forces showed dramatic capability increases after each engagement.
They're not just gaining experience, explained Commander Tekvar.
They're evolving tactically in real time.
Strategies that work against them once never work again. Admiral ZYX absorbed this information with growing alarm. Every principle of military science suggested that such rapid adaptation was impossible for organic beings. Yet the evidence was undeniable.
What's your assessment of their long-term potential? She asked. Dr. Nixandra and Commander Tekvar exchanged glances before responding. If current trends continue, replied Dr. Nixandra slowly, human forces will achieve tactical superiority over any conventional military within 6 standard cycles.
6 cycles, repeated Admiral ZYX. That's impossible. The hegemony has dominated galactic warfare for 3,000 cycles. The mathematical projections are clear, insisted Commander Tekvar.
Human combat effectiveness increases exponentially with each engagement. If they maintain current learning rates, no conventional force will be able to match them. The secure briefing chamber fell silent except for the soft humming of the analysis systems.
Admiral ZYX considered the implications of this intelligence briefing.
If accurate, humanity represented a fundamental shift in the galactic balance of power.
Recommendations, she asked finally.
Immediate priority intelligence gathering, replied Dr. Nixandra. We need to understand the source of their capabilities before they advance beyond our ability to counter them.
And if we can't counter them, asked Admiral ZYX. Commander Tekvar's insectoid features clicked nervously. Then, we need to decide whether humanity represents an ally or an existential threat to galactic stability.
The weight of that decision hung heavy in the crystalline chamber as Admiral ZYX realized that the galaxy was about to change in ways none of them could predict.
Admiral ZYX stood on the observation deck of the stealth research vessel Quantum Observer, her scaled fingers pressed against the transparent aluminum viewport as she watched the distant battle unfold in the Kepler sector.
2 weeks had passed since the intelligence briefings, and the Defense Council had authorized direct field observation of human combat operations. What she witnessed through the advanced sensor arrays challenged everything she thought she understood about warfare. Admiral, we're receiving real-time tactical data from the engagement, reported Commander Veshtai, the ship's intelligence officer. Her crystalline form refracted the bridge lighting into prismatic patterns as she manipulated the sensor controls. The main display materialized a three-dimensional battlefield spanning several cubic kilometers of space around a contested mining station. Hegemony forces had established a defensive perimeter using standard fleet doctrine, heavy cruisers forming the primary battle line, destroyers providing screening elements, and fighter squadrons maintaining patrol patterns. Hegemony force composition consists of 43 capital ships and over 200 support vessels, continued Commander Veshtai. Tactical analysis indicates optimal defensive positioning with overlapping fields of fire and redundant command structures.
Admiral Zyxthera nodded grimly.
The Hegemony fleet represented overwhelming firepower configured according to military doctrine that had proven successful across thousands of engagements.
And the human force?
Sensors detect 7 human vessels approaching from the asteroid field, replied Commander Veshtai. 2 cruisers, 3 destroyers, and 2 ships of unknown configuration. The tactical display highlighted the approaching human fleet. The numerical disadvantage was staggering, 7 ships against nearly 300. Standard military analysis predicted complete annihilation within minutes of engagement.
They're not retreating, observed Admiral Zyxthera.
No, Admiral.
In fact, they appear to be accelerating toward the Hegemony defensive line.
Dr. Mordesh of the Philosophical Union materialized beside the tactical display, his energy-based form flickering with computational activity. As beings of pure thought, his species had mastered warfare through mathematical perfection and logical analysis. Admiral, our combat analysis systems are detecting anomalous patterns in human ship movements, Dr. Mordesh announced.
They're not following any recognized tactical doctrine.
The display tracked the human vessels as they approached the overwhelming Hegemony force. Instead of maintaining formation cohesion, the ships were spreading across an impossibly wide front, presenting multiple small targets rather than concentrating their firepower.
Standard fleet doctrine calls for concentrated force application, mused Admiral Zyxthera. Dividing their already minimal strength violates basic strategic principles.
Exactly, confirmed Dr. Mordesh.
They're creating multiple separate engagements instead of a unified battle. From a mathematical perspective, this should ensure their defeat.
Unless, said Commander Veshtai slowly, they're operating under tactical assumptions we don't understand. The first exchange of fire erupted across the battlefield as Hegemony forces open engagement at maximum range.
Energy beams and kinetic projectiles streaked through space toward the dispersed human fleet. The amount of incoming fire should have overwhelmed any defensive systems. Instead, something impossible occurred.
How are they doing that? Demanded Admiral Zyxthera. The human ships were moving through the concentrated fire with precision that exceeded mechanical limitations. Not only were they avoiding direct hits, but their movement patterns seemed to predict where the next volleys would be aimed before the Hegemony forces had finished targeting calculations. Evasion patterns suggest they're anticipating enemy fire control solutions, reported Commander Veshtai. But that would require processing enemy tactical data faster than the enemy systems themselves. Dr. Mordesh was analyzing the movement patterns with increasing urgency. Their navigation algorithms must be running predictive analysis at computational speeds that exceed our most advanced tactical computers. That's impossible for organic crews, protested Admiral Zyxthera.
Neural processing delays alone should prevent such rapid response times.
Unless, said Dr. Mordesh quietly, they're not relying entirely on conscious decision-making. The human fleet had reached optimal firing range and began returning fire.
The results were immediately apparent. Hegemony ships began registering critical hits despite the humans' numerical disadvantage.
How are they achieving such accuracy? Asked Commander Veshtai.
The tactical display highlighted human weapon impacts.
Instead of the scattered fire patterns typical of space combat, human weapons were striking critical system nodes with surgical precision.
They're not just hitting targets, realized Admiral Zyxthera.
They're hitting specific systems.
Command centers, weapon control nodes, propulsion systems.
Analysis indicates humans are targeting enemy vessels for mission kill rather than destruction, confirmed Dr. Mordesh.
They're disabling enemy capability rather than eliminating enemy units.
Why? Asked Commander Veshtai.
Because disabled ships require rescue and support resources, replied Admiral Zyxthera grimly. They're not just defeating the enemy, they're creating logistical burdens that will impact future operations.
The battle continued to evolve in ways that defied conventional analysis. Human ships were maintaining combat effectiveness despite taking damage that should have forced them to withdraw. More significantly, their tactical coordination seemed to improve as the engagement progressed. "Admiral, we're detecting something unusual," reported Commander Veshtai. "The human fleet is adapting its tactics in real time. They've modified their attack patterns 3 times in the last 4 minutes."
"Adapting to enemy responses?" asked Admiral ZYX. "No, Admiral. They're adapting to enemy adaptations.
They're anticipating how the hegemony forces will respond to their tactical modifications and preparing counter-responses before the enemy tactics evolve." Dr. Mordesh was studying the sensor data with growing fascination. This suggests tactical processing capabilities that operate several levels beyond linear strategic thinking.
They're not just planning moves, they're planning sequences of move-counter-move interactions.
Like playing multiple strategy games simultaneously, mused Admiral ZYX.
"More complex than that," replied Dr. Mordesh.
"They're playing strategy games where the rules change based on their opponent's psychology and the rules of those games change based on their opponent's responses to the changing rules."
The implications were staggering.
If humans could process tactical information at such sophisticated levels, conventional military doctrine became irrelevant.
No enemy could develop countermeasures fast enough to match human adaptation rates. "Admiral, the hegemony force is beginning to withdraw," announced Commander Veshtai.
The tactical display showed hegemony ships disengaging from combat and retreating toward the outer system. Despite maintaining numerical superiority, they were abandoning the battlefield to 7 human vessels.
"Damage assessment?" asked Admiral ZYX.
Hegemony losses: 11 capital ships destroyed, 23 ships mission killed, extensive damage across the remaining fleet, reported Commander Veshtai. Human losses: superficial damage to 3 vessels, no mission kills, no destroyed units. The mathematical impossibility of the outcome left the observation crew in stunned silence. 7 human ships had defeated nearly 300 hegemony vessels with minimal losses.
"We need to understand how they achieved this," declared Admiral ZYX. "Launch a deep scan probe."
"I want detailed analysis of human ship operations."
"Admiral," interrupted Dr. Mordesh, "sensors are detecting an incoming transmission from the human fleet."
"They know we're here?" asked Commander Veshtai.
"Apparently," replied Dr. Mordesh.
"The transmission is directed specifically at our position."
Admiral ZYX felt a chill of realization.
The Quantum Observer was equipped with the most advanced stealth systems available, technology that rendered ships undetectable to known sensor arrays. If humans had detected their presence, they possessed capabilities beyond current intelligence estimates.
"Put the transmission through," ordered Admiral ZYX. The main display shifted to show a human figure in military uniform. The being appeared unremarkably normal, bipedal, average proportions, no visible technological enhancements.
Yet the eyes held an intelligence that seemed to pierce directly through the transmission link.
"Greetings, Admiral ZYX of the Galactic Defense Council vessel Quantum Observer.
I am Colonel Sarah Mitchell, commanding the 3rd Expeditionary Fleet of the Terran Federation."
Admiral ZYX exchanged glances with her crew.
The human had identified not only their ship but her personal identity and position.
The intelligence implications were disturbing.
"Colonel Mitchell," replied Admiral ZYX carefully, "you seem remarkably well informed about our operations." The human's expression remained neutral but somehow conveyed amusement.
"We've been aware of your observation mission since you entered this system, Admiral.
Your stealth technology is impressive, but you're operating on assumptions about detection methods that don't account for human sensory capabilities."
"What do you mean?" asked Admiral ZYX. "We don't rely entirely on technological sensors," explained Colonel Mitchell.
Humans have evolved intuitive awareness systems that operate independently of mechanical detection methods. We can sense patterns in spacetime distortion, electromagnetic fluctuations, and gravitational anomalies that your stealth systems don't address. Dr. Mordesh was analyzing this information with rapidly increasing computational activity.
"Are you suggesting humans have developed extrasensory detection capabilities?" "Not extrasensory," replied Colonel Mitchell. "Hypersensory. We process information across broader spectrums than most species consider relevant.
What you call stealth technology simply shifts detectable signatures into frequency ranges that most species ignore.
But humans don't ignore those ranges, realized Commander Veshtai.
Exactly, confirmed Colonel Mitchell. We evolved as persistence predators on a world with extremely diverse environmental conditions. Our survival depended on detecting subtle patterns across multiple sensory modalities simultaneously.
Admiral Zyxthera was beginning to understand the scope of human capabilities. You're saying humans can detect things that other species can't perceive?
We're saying humans perceive things that other species choose not to process, corrected Colonel Mitchell. The information is available to anyone with appropriate sensory equipment.
Most species filter out data they consider irrelevant. Humans process everything. The implications were profound.
If humans operated with expanded sensory awareness, conventional stealth and deception tactics would prove ineffective against them. Colonel, would you be willing to discuss your combat capabilities more directly? Asked Admiral Zyxthera.
The human's expression shifted slightly, conveying consideration. That depends on your intentions, Admiral. Are you here to evaluate humanity as a potential threat or a potential ally? The directness of the question caught Admiral Zyxthera off guard.
Most species approached such topics through diplomatic indirection and careful negotiation.
Humans apparently preferred straightforward communication. We're here to understand, replied Admiral Zyxthera honestly.
Human military effectiveness has exceeded all our analytical models.
The Defense Council needs to comprehend the implications for galactic stability.
A reasonable concern, acknowledged Colonel Mitchell.
Very well. We're willing to provide limited demonstration of human combat capabilities under controlled conditions. What kind of demonstration? Asked Dr. Mordesh.
Single combat between one human marine and opposing force of your choosing, replied Colonel Mitchell.
Under observation conditions that will allow your analysts to study human tactical methods directly. Admiral Zyxthera felt her crest dim with concern.
A single human against multiple opponents would provide valuable intelligence, but the risks were significant. If the human proved as effective as intelligence reports suggested, the demonstration could become a massacre. What parameters would you suggest? She asked.
Standard combat scenario, replied Colonel Mitchell.
One human marine with basic equipment against whatever force you consider appropriate for evaluation purposes.
We recommend starting conservatively and escalating if necessary. Define conservatively, requested Commander Veshtai.
Colonel Mitchell's expression conveyed what might have been a slight smile. Perhaps 10 to 15 opponents with standard military equipment and training.
If you find the results insufficient for your analytical purposes, we can discuss additional parameters. Admiral Zyxthera considered the proposal. Direct observation of human combat capabilities would provide intelligence that no amount of sensor analysis could match.
Yet the casual way Colonel Mitchell discussed facing 15 opponents suggested confidence levels that bordered on the impossible. We'll need to establish neutral ground for such a demonstration, she said finally. The abandoned research station in the Proxima system would be suitable, suggested Colonel Mitchell. Controlled environment, adequate space for maneuvering, and sensor transparency for your analysis equipment.
Agreed, replied Admiral Zyxthera. When can your Marine be ready?
He's ready now, replied Colonel Mitchell. The question is whether your evaluation team can be prepared for what they're about to witness. The transmission ended, leaving Admiral Zyxthera and her crew to contemplate what they had committed themselves to observing. The casual confidence displayed by the human commander suggested that their intelligence estimates might still be dramatically conservative.
Set course for the Proxima system, ordered Admiral Zyxthera.
And prepare full sensor analysis equipment. I have the feeling we're about to witness something unprecedented. As the quantum observer changed course toward what might prove to be the most important military demonstration in galactic history, Admiral Zyxthera wondered whether her species was about to encounter an ally or discover that they had been observing an apex predator that had finally revealed itself to the galaxy. The abandoned research station drifted silently in the void of the Proxima system, its darkened corridors and empty chambers providing the perfect arena for what would become the most significant military demonstration in galactic history.
Admiral Zyxthera watched from the command center of the Quantum Observer as teams of technicians finished installing sensor arrays throughout the facility. Admiral, all monitoring systems are operational, reported Commander Veshtai. We have complete sensor coverage of the demonstration area with multiple redundant recording systems.
The station's central hub had been cleared to create an arena approximately 200 meters in diameter with multiple levels, obstacles, and varied terrain features.
It resembled a complex urban environment scaled down for detailed observation. Opposition force status, asked Admiral ZYX Thera.
15 volunteers from the elite guard of the Vorthak Republic, replied Dr. Mordesh. Each equipped with standard energy weapons, combat armor, and enhanced reflexes through combat stimulants. They represent peak military capability from one of the galaxy's most respected warrior cultures.
Admiral ZYX Thera nodded approvingly.
The Vorthak had earned their reputation through centuries of successful military campaigns. Their elite guard units were considered among the most effective small unit fighters in known space. If human capabilities could be tested against any conventional force, the Vorthak represented an optimal challenge.
Human participant status, she inquired. Single Marine, designation confirmed as Sergeant Marcus Chen of the Terran Federation 3rd Marine Division, responded Commander Veshtai.
Equipment consists of standard kinetic rifle, sidearm, basic armor, and standard field pack.
No visible technological enhancements or exotic equipment.
On the main display, Admiral ZYX Thera could observe both forces preparing in separate staging areas. The Vorthak elite guards moved with the fluid precision of experienced warriors, checking weapons, coordinating tactical communications, and establishing preliminary firing positions. Their four-armed physiology provided significant advantages in combat situations, allowing simultaneous weapon manipulation and movement coordination impossible for most bipedal species. In contrast, the single human appeared almost casual in his preparations. Sergeant Chen moved through equipment checks with methodical efficiency but without apparent stress or urgency. His bipedal form seemed unremarkable compared to the imposing Vorthak warriors, yet something in his movements suggested coiled potential.
Begin recording all systems, ordered Admiral ZYX Thera. I want complete documentation of everything that occurs.
Admiral, interrupted Dr. Mordesh, we're receiving a communication request from the human participant.
Accept the transmission, replied Admiral ZYX Thera.
The display shifted to show Sergeant Chen's face. Human features were subtle compared to most galactic species, but Admiral ZYX Thera found herself studying the eyes with particular interest. They held the same penetrating intelligence she had observed in Colonel Mitchell, along with something else, a predatory awareness that seemed to evaluate everything simultaneously.
Admiral ZYX Thera, I wanted to clarify the engagement parameters before we begin, said Sergeant Chen.
His voice was calm, professional, and entirely without the tension typical of warriors preparing for dangerous combat.
What clarification do you require? Asked Admiral ZYX Thera.
The opposition force consists of 15 elite guards armed with energy weapons, continued Sergeant Chen.
Are there limitations on my tactical approaches, or am I authorized to employ full combat protocols? The question sent a chill through Admiral ZYX Thera's crest.
What do you mean by full combat protocols?
Human military doctrine includes tactical methods that other species might consider excessive, explained Sergeant Chen. I want to ensure that our demonstration doesn't exceed your observation objectives.
Dr. Mordesh leaned forward with interest.
What kind of tactical methods?
Psychological warfare, environmental manipulation, adaptive strategy evolution, and persistence protocols, replied Sergeant Chen. Depending on how the engagement develops, I might employ techniques that could be disturbing to observe.
Disturbing how? Asked Commander Veshtai.
Sergeant Chen's expression remained neutral.
Humans evolved as persistence predators.
Our combat protocols reflect those evolutionary adaptations. If I employ full tactical capabilities, the engagement might become less of a battle and more of a hunt. The implications of that statement hung heavy in the command center.
Every species present understood the difference between warfare and predation. Warriors fought for objectives, territory, or survival. Predators eliminated prey for sustenance.
Are you saying humans approach combat as predation rather than warfare? Asked Admiral ZYX Thera. We approach combat as both, replied Sergeant Chen.
Humans can engage in conventional warfare when appropriate.
But, when facing superior numbers or firepower, we revert to predatory instincts.
It's more efficient. More efficient at what? Pressed Dr. Mordesh.
At ensuring the prey doesn't survive the encounter, replied Sergeant Chen matter-of-factly.
Admiral ZYX Thera exchanged glances with her officers.
They had expected to observe advanced combat techniques, not predatory behavior translated into military tactics. Proceed with standard engagement protocols, she decided. We need to understand human capabilities in their natural expression. Understood, Admiral. Beginning demonstration in 60 seconds. The transmission ended, leaving the observation team to contemplate what they were about to witness. On the tactical display, the 15 Vorthak elite guards had positioned themselves throughout the arena in a defensive formation that utilized cover and crossfire zones effectively. Sergeant Chen appeared at the arena entrance, his basic equipment seeming primitive compared to the advanced weaponry arrayed against him. The numerical and technological disadvantages were overwhelming by any conventional analysis. Engagement initiated, announced Commander Veshtai. What happened next would be analyzed by military strategists across the galaxy for generations to come. Sergeant Chen entered the arena and immediately disappeared. Sensors show human life signs, but visual contact has been lost, reported Commander Veshtai with confusion. The Vorthak guards were experiencing the same phenomenon. Their scanning equipment showed the human was present in the arena, but they couldn't establish visual contact. The warrior in the lead position began signaling his team to maintain defensive positions while scanning for threats. How is he accomplishing optical concealment without technological enhancement? Asked Dr. Mordesh. Admiral Zyxthara studied the sensor readings carefully. He's still there. Our instruments detect him clearly. But, somehow visual identification is impossible. The first Vorthak guard eliminated himself from the exercise by stepping into what appeared to be empty space. Sensors recorded a brief physical interaction, then, the guard's vital signs showed he had been rendered unconscious through precise application of force to neural pressure points. Engagement duration for first elimination, 17 seconds, reported Commander Veshtai. Human approached, neutralized target, and withdrew without being detected by the remaining 14 guards. The Vorthak team immediately shifted to a tighter defensive formation, scanning continuously for their invisible opponent. Their enhanced reflexes and sensory equipment should have detected any approaching threat. The second elimination occurred 30 seconds later. A guard on the perimeter suddenly collapsed, his weapon clattering away as he lost consciousness. Again, no visual contact with the human attacker. He's hunting them, realized Admiral Zyxthara. Picking off isolated targets while remaining undetected. But, how? Demanded Dr. Mordesh. Vorthak sensory equipment can detect movement at the molecular level. No organic being should be capable of evading their detection systems. The answer came as they watched the third elimination. Sensors finally captured the brief interaction that showed Sergeant Chen moving not around the Vorthak scanning patterns, but through them. He wasn't avoiding detection, he was moving during the microscopic gaps between sensor sweeps. Impossible reaction times, breathed Commander Veshtai. He's processing the scanning patterns and timing his movement to exploit intervals that last milliseconds. That level of temporal precision exceeds known biological limitations, added Dr. Mordesh. The eliminations continued with methodical efficiency. Sergeant Chen was systematically reducing the opposition force while remaining essentially invisible. More disturbing was the growing psychological impact on the surviving Vorthak guards. They're showing stress indicators, observed Commander Veshtai. Heart rate elevation, adrenaline spikes, coordination degradation. Admiral Zyxthara watched as the elite warriors began making tactical errors driven by mounting panic. They were facing an opponent who violated their understanding of combat physics. He's not just eliminating targets, she realized. He's deliberately inducing psychological breakdown in the surviving opponents. Psychological warfare, confirmed Dr. Mordesh. He's using their fear as a tactical weapon. By the time 7 guards had been eliminated, the remaining 8 had consolidated into a tight defensive circle, weapons trained outward in all directions. It was a tactically sound response to an invisible threat. It was also exactly what Sergeant Chen wanted. The final phase of the demonstration revealed the true scope of human tactical thinking. Rather than continuing the individual elimination strategy, Sergeant Chen shifted to environmental manipulation. Motion sensors detect human activity near the arena's atmospheric controls, reported Commander Veshtai. Within moments, the arena's lighting systems began fluctuating in patterns that created strobing effects designed to disrupt Vorthak visual processing. Simultaneously, atmospheric composition shifted to include trace gases that interfered with their enhanced olfactory sensors.
He's degrading their sensory capabilities, observed Admiral Zyxthera. Removing their technological advantages through environmental control.
The remaining Vorthake guards found themselves facing an opponent who had transformed the battlefield into an environment optimized for human advantages while minimizing their own capabilities.
Their advanced sensors became liabilities as conflicting data streams overwhelmed their processing systems. The final eliminations occurred in rapid succession as Sergeant Chen moved through the disoriented defenders with fluid precision.
Each engagement lasted only seconds, ending with another unconscious Vorthake warrior.
Total engagement duration, 11 minutes, 47 seconds, reported Commander Veshtai. Human casualties, none.
Opposition casualties, 15 eliminated, all unconscious but unharmed.
Admiral Zyxthera stared at the tactical display in stunned silence.
15 elite guards, warriors who represented the pinnacle of conventional military capability, had been systematically eliminated by a single human with basic equipment.
Analysis, she asked finally.
Dr. Mordesh was reviewing the sensor data with increasing urgency. Human combat effectiveness exceeded our highest projections by a factor of 6. The tactical methods employed violate standard military doctrine but demonstrate unprecedented efficiency.
How? Demanded Admiral Zyxthera. 3 primary factors, replied Dr. Mordesh. First, reaction times that exceed known biological limitations through what appears to be predictive rather than reactive responses. Second, environmental awareness that processes information across sensory spectrums most species ignore. Third, tactical flexibility that adapts strategies faster than opponents can develop countermeasures. The display shifted to show Sergeant Chen emerging from the arena, his equipment and appearance unchanged despite the complex engagement. He moved with the same casual efficiency he had displayed during preparation, showing no signs of stress or fatigue. Admiral, announced Commander Veshtai, were receiving a transmission from Sergeant Chen. Accept, replied Admiral Zyxthera.
Sergeant Chen's face appeared on the display, his expression calm and professional.
Admiral, demonstration complete. Are there additional parameters you'd like to evaluate? Additional parameters, repeated Admiral Zyxthera.
This demonstration utilized basic individual combat protocols, explained Sergeant Chen. Human military capabilities include unit coordination, technological integration, and strategic escalation options. If your analysis requires broader capability assessment, we can arrange more comprehensive demonstrations.
Admiral Zyxthera felt her crest pale as she considered the implications. If this represented basic human capability, advanced demonstrations might prove overwhelming. That won't be necessary, she replied. Your demonstration has provided sufficient data for our analysis. Understood, Admiral. Colonel Mitchell has authorized me to answer tactical questions if they would assist your evaluation. Just one question, said Admiral Zyxthera. Are all human Marines capable of similar performance? Sergeant Chen's expression conveyed what might have been modest amusement. Admiral, I'm considered average by Terran Federation standards. Our elite units demonstrate significantly enhanced capabilities. The transmission ended, leaving Admiral Zyxthera and her crew to contemplate the most significant shift in galactic military balance they had ever witnessed. Set course for Council Headquarters, ordered Admiral Zyxthera. Priority transmission to all member species. We need to convene an emergency session immediately. As the Quantum Observer departed the Proxima system, Admiral Zyxthera realized that the galaxy had just been introduced to a species that would fundamentally alter the nature of warfare itself. The question was no longer whether humans represented a threat or an opportunity. The question was whether any conventional military force could stand against them if they chose to expand their influence beyond the Outer Rim territories. And, based on what she had just witnessed, Admiral Zyxthera suspected the answer was terrifyingly simple. No.